Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio. My name is Bernard Alvarez, and I will be your host over the next 2 hours, bringing you some very insightful discussion today with a very special guest. Henriette Eiby Christensen is joining us live from Denmark, but we'll talk more about her and to her in just a few moments. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to our show. We are a show that discusses different topics relating to revealing the real matrix as well as empowering your human experience. So we have lots of topics coming up this afternoon. Joining me live from Winnipeg, Manitoba is Trevor Knott, our assistant director, and he is manning the chat room today. So if you have any questions, by all means, please type them, and Trevor will get them to us. Hello, Trevor. How are you today?
Hello. I am doing well. How about you?
I'm very good, and I understand you guys just got rid of the nasty weather and are moving into some better weather, I hope.
We got rid of the nasty weather, moving into some better weather, and now we're moving back into nasty weather again.
Yes, there seems to be a very big blizzard or some type of snowstorm going through the Midwest right now, and it looks like it's going to hit us here in Virginia as well, probably later tonight or tomorrow. Anyway, it's just been a crazy winter, I'll tell you. This is probably the worst winter that I've experienced since I've lived here. But with that, let me just say that we did have a wonderful show with our fellow Revolution Radio host, Roxy Lopez, this last Thursday. Roxy and I do a show together called Tribe TV that airs once a month on GIC TV. And this last week we did a show based on the subject matter of the new TV series on Netflix called House of Cards. And that was our inspiration. We did some investigating, we did some digging, and we were trying to really understand the psychology behind these people in power. I mean, the ones who create policy and the way, not only how they interact with one another, but how they see the general public as a whole. So it's a very, very in-depth discussion. It gets a little heated. Roxy was quite on a roll that afternoon. So if you want to, you can check it out. It's either going to be on Roxy's page or my page. The archive is available, and it's called The House of Cards with Tribe TV. So without further ado, let us welcome our guest, Henriette Eiby Christensen is joining us live from Denmark today, and Henriette is a well-established author of her 110 Ways series, where she describes her journey from domestic violence and depression to freedom and happiness. She is Danish and a single mother of three. She's a writer, a speaker, a blogger, a teacher, and an artist. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Henriette. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing really well. And it's been a lovely day here, cold but lovely.
Oh, so, nice. Very nice.
Yes, it's a rare thing in Denmark that it's this nice for several days in a row.
Absolutely. So, I just have to acknowledge how clear everything sounds right now coming from Denmark. Usually when we do overseas calls, it comes a little echoey, but it sounds fantastic. So we have a good connection in Denmark.
I put you on my landline. I'm not
okay.
Yes.
That's probably why. Anyway, so Henriette, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I just want to remind everybody that you are an author and you have several books out there, 110 Ways to Detect a Bad Relationship Before It's Too Late, 110 Ways to Charm Your Brain, Positive Thinking, 110 Ways to Avoid Getting Old, Sparkle Your Life, 110 Ways, First Book of Quotes, 110 Ways to Spot a Toxic Person. We're going to talk about that because you have a special offer right now. But also, let me announce before I ask you my first question that Henriette and I are co-authors on a new book that was just released today called The Faces Behind the Pages That Inspire. And it is a compilation of stories from some of the, I guess, the more popular and or more empowering people and Facebook pages. So you'll see pages on there that are people behind the pages that you probably recognize on Facebook. And one of them is mine, the Global Illumination Council, and of course 110 Ways. So the book is out today, and if you're interested, you can find it on Amazon.com. That's Faces Behind the Pages That Inspire. So I was looking forward to connecting with one of my fellow co-authors, and this is my opportunity. So, Henriette, let me ask you, tell us a little bit about your story. Where did you come from? What experience did you go through to get to where you are now? What brought you to this place that you are today?
It was a long journey. I'm 50 now, and I came out of a verbally abusive relationship about 7 years ago, and it took me about 5 years to figure out what had happened, because, he didn't hit me, and we shared a bank account, and he didn't come home drunk, so it's kind of hard to explain what was wrong, but the long and short is that I wasn't feeling good, well, I actually took it so far that I went to the doctor and asked him, how long can I stay this stressed before I get ill? And he said, well, you don't have to do that. But even that answer wasn't enough for me to get out. It took a lot of years, and it actually took having a daughter because I figured I did not want to teach her the patterns of this marriage. And when she was 4, we split up finally. So it took me a long time to get out. And that's one of the things that can be really hard to understand. Why don't you just leave a bad relationship? Why do you get so stuck? And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. And you may have to share an apartment, or you may share a mortgage, or you may have a dog, or you may have cars together. So the more entangled you are in each other's lives, which is usually a good thing. If you have a good relationship, you have to rely on each other and depend on each other. But if it's not a good relationship, those things can get you stuck. And relationships like that don't start out being bad. My ex-husband was a very charming and very handsome man, and he seemed to be able to fulfill all my needs. But then very suddenly he started criticizing me. And what really came to me as a surprise, and I've only learned this lately, is that it only takes a month of being bullied for you to lose touch with yourself and be lost. So that's really, in essence, why you can get stuck in these relationships and not be able to get out. The financial bonds, emotional bonds, it's sort of like an addiction. It's that hard to get out. If you're addicted to alcohol or cocaine or something like that, you might have have to go through the same issues and use the same tools to get out. Does that make sense, Bernard?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I can't help but think of the people I know from my life in the past 30 years or whatnot that have been in either emotionally abusive or violently abusive relationships. And it seems like the number one answer is, oh, but they're going to change. Maybe next time it won't be so bad. And there's always that little bit of hope.
Yes, and I always thought he was going to change. And we went to counseling, and it did seem to help. But the problem was we had to go back every week for it to be to help for real. And who can afford that? All the patterns came back after a week. So we would have to keep going for years and years. And that's really one of the things that I found out in my research as well, that It really takes 5 years of weekly therapy for somebody to change their cognitive patterns. So that's how hard it is to change somebody. So chances are they're not going to change.
Right.
You can change but you can't change other people.
Very true. Very true. And it really is up to that person to make the decision and stick to it, to really want to, to be a better person. I know I've seen people do on the other extreme. I've seen people that were at one time verbally or physically abusive and who have awoken to their spiritual nature, and they start living in that alignment.
Yes.
So, there's always that chance, but unless that happens, it has to happen within that individual. It can't be, you can't force someone to change, just like you were saying.
No, you can't. I wish you could.
Yeah. We've never really discussed this topic before in any of our shows. We've been doing radio for about 5 years now. And it's a very important topic. I think it's, it goes along with the theme of the series of the book that we're in, A Victim No More.
Right.
And it just seems to me that there are just so many people. And can you maybe explain a little bit, or maybe expand a little bit on what emotional abuse is? Because I myself was in an emotionally abusive relationship when I was in my 20s. And many people don't think, or may have an idea that just because they're not hitting you, they're not abusing you. But you can be emotionally abusive and really do some damage to somebody's spirit and their soul and their psyche.
Well, the word is mightier than the thought, they said, right? So you can develop post-traumatic stress from being bullied. So it doesn't take a war to develop those symptoms. You can look them up. I mean, you don't sleep so well. You have a stomach ache and things like that. But what happens is that you may be a very flexible person, and very understanding and very empathic, and everybody wants to be those things. But the problem arises when somebody starts to use it against you. So, in my case, he was an abused child. And so everything he did or said could be explained by that. And he made me feel sorry for him. And so I stayed, and I thought it could be better. And I think a lot of people have a tendency to think they can repair other people. And they can't. Because like we discussed before, it has to come from their own desire to change. And then I was, gradually put down, and he would start telling me about how beautiful and wonderful I was, and then all of a sudden it was, you're beautiful, but, that really doesn't suit you, or the art you're doing, well, you could do it better. There's little things like that, so you get insecure. And once they can get you to be just a little bit insecure, it's easy to dig that hole bigger and bigger, and you lose touch with what's right and wrong, and you lose touch with what is good for you.
Isn't that the truth? And you can't help but, I mean, this is a good time for us to acknowledge that the idea of the abuser loves to feel empowered and in control, so they're going to do everything they can to make one feel insecure, to question themselves, to make them think they're going crazy sometimes. And as I like to say it, they take the wind out of your sail when you're motivated. Yes. And you know what? I have to say that doesn't only happen in loving relationships or love relationships, intimate relationships. It happens in friendships and in families as well.
And work relationships as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor can relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Bad sign. I guess you do have to have a talk after.
Yeah.
He's open about his distaste for the relationship there.
Yeah, being kind of like having no choice but to surround yourself with people that you really normally wouldn't. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. And unfortunately, we all get stuck in these, whether, like you said, whether it be work, friendship, family. And there comes a time when you just need to empower yourself and move on. Tell us a little bit, Henriette. Let's move on a little bit, Henriette. Your books are very simple and very easy to read and understand. Why have you kept everything so simple?
Because I had to understand it. I had to understand, and I've read so much. I've read so much psychology, spirituality, law of attraction, you name it, I've read it. And so I got little bits and pieces from every single book I read. And I've collected all the best parts in all my books. And that's really my own process I wanted to understand. And one of my strongest traits is that I can simplify things. So it's the essence not only of my own experience, but also of those many, many books I've read over the years.
Right, right. So
they are really simple. I mean, some of the pages are almost blank. That's how simple they are. And I leave a lot of space open for people to think and write their own notes. So they're workbooks. My books are workbooks.
That's a wonderful idea. And it sounds like, workbook is a great way to do it compared to having like a big textbook manual where people are like, what? What does that mean? Or what does that mean?
Can you read 300 pages when you're in a crisis?
Exactly.
No, you can't. But you can read my books, and you can read them in one sitting.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Now, the latest book I released yesterday, and it's out there on Amazon. The e-book is free, and I'm already getting really great reviews of it. People are blown away because it's so simple.
Oh, so good. So good to hear. I saw that you posted that, and we have actually been sharing that link on the GIC Facebook page as well. So that is your latest book that you're giving out as an ebook for free right now?
Yes, until Thursday.
Okay.
And it is actually the plan to do it once a month because a lot of the people who come out of these abusive relationships, they simply don't have a dime. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make it free so the crisis centers and the shelters and everybody can get it for free. Yes, I mean, because you don't have any money when you're leaving.
And that one is 110 ways to identify a toxic person?
Yeah, to spot a toxic person, yes.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. And, it's funny, I just spoke about toxic people last week here and about removing them from our lives and from taking our energy. And, again, we were just talking about people that take the wind out of your sails, how important it is to be able to tell the word I'm looking for is the warning signs, I guess.
Yeah.
I
think the most important, sorry I interrupted, but
I was just going to ask you what they are.
Is that you just keep that little toe planted on the ground. Nobody is going to be able to leave that, get it away from the ground. You got to keep touch with yourself. And listen, if you have a stomach ache, well, there is a reason for it. Listen to it. And I know listening to it can be really hard because you may have to change some things, and that can be very scary. So that's the most important thing. You gotta keep touch with yourself, no matter what happens. If you can do that, nothing is going to be able to blow you away, or maybe it will, but you can get back on your own feet again.
Absolutely.
Stay in touch with yourself. It's the most important thing.
Right, right. And, you were just, we had spoken a little bit already a few minutes ago about why people stay in bad relationships. But can you give us some examples of why people just get stuck? And what I mean by why do they get stuck versus why do they stay is do they not see it coming? Can you give us some examples of why they get stuck in the relationship?
Yes. Well, the thing is, it happens so gradually that you don't see it coming. And since, like I said, it could happen just in the course of 1 month, then it's really hard because you get sort of anesthetized. And this person you have a relationship with, they can be very charming and like if you've heard this before, if somebody hits you and brings you flowers and love letters the next day, you melt again and you keep believing that they can change, like you said. Mm-hmm. But if you keep asking yourself, should I stay or should I go? That should be a wake-up call. And if he starts asking for a divorce once in a while, well, you shouldn't just put up with it. You should just leave, or do it yourself too.
Exactly. You know, and you're making a point here, and it sounds like many of us who get stuck in these types of relationships really ignore what our body is telling us. And you know, I speak about that very often, listening to your intuition, listening to your gut, listening to your body. And, you know, why has it become so difficult for many of us to listen to our own gut feelings?
Well, I think we are brought up that way. You know, you have to get over it. I'm sorry, it is really hard to explain. Why don't people listen to their gut feelings? It's because they think they love the person.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that, they're going to change. They ignore it, and get more and more stressed. And the more stressed you get, the less you can think straight. And so it sort of bites itself in the tail. And you are being bullied, being let down little by little, and you get confused. So you really don't know what's up and down. You're sort of insane in a way. You can't think straight.
It's as if we lose the courage to trust our intuition.
Right, and the courage to leave. It takes a lot of courage to leave. And it also leaving a relationship. It's all your dreams of forever happy forever after. It's a tough one to do. You have to really, maybe you feel you let yourself down. So much is going on. Divorce is never a happy thing, even if you think it is. It's really always a tough thing because you have to confront all these feelings and losses. It's a loss.
Yeah. And it's funny because so many of us on the outside, we come across very tough or thick-skinned because that's what society tries to tell us to do, that we must come off strong and in control and whatnot. And in reality, you're going through these inner battles with your emotions and your spirit and trying to realign. For me, it's about realigning with what our spirit is trying to get us to do.
Yes, you really don't have to change. You just have to find your way back to who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of that, how can people today begin to change the way they see themselves in order to build a better relationship?
I think it's very important that the little toe planted firmly on the ground is one thing. But also realizing if you are not happy, what have you got to give? So I know people are going to say it's selfish, but if you're good to yourself first, you treat yourself well first, nobody's going to be able to treat you badly. And you will have a lot more to give. Everybody says, well, follow your heart. Well, what if you don't know what that means? So what you have to do is treat yourself well. Treat yourself like you would treat other people. Or maybe even better because it'll make you feel good. And then you have a lot more to give.
Isn't that funny? I'm working on that philosophy for myself right now, actually.
It is a tough one.
Pampering yourself. I think it's very important because, you know, if you're being drained, if you're unhappy, or if you're tired or hungry or whatever you want to call it, you're not going to have that much to give to other people. So it really is important that we do begin to be more vigilant into what we allow into our consciousness. And that, for me, that includes everything from media to friendships to what we read. We're reading, trashy magazines. We keep reading trashy magazines, we're going to start thinking trashy thoughts. You know?
Right. But I have a small exercise. It's really simple, but you have to do it every day, and you have to plan it a day ahead. Mm-hmm. And the reason why you have to do that is because you have to have something to look forward to. And it's really simple. It can be eating an apple really slowly. Or it can be staying 5 minutes extra in the shower. It's like 5 minutes of meditation. Mm-hmm. Or getting off the bus one stop early or one stop late and walking home. You get 5 minutes of extra exercise in. Just those little things. I say, tomorrow I'm going to wear makeup. Or tomorrow I'm going to do my nails. You know, I'm a woman, sorry.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow I'm going to polish the car. Whatever gives you joy. Whatever gives you 5 minutes of extra peace. But if you plan it the day ahead, you have something to look forward to. Even if it's little things like that. Or picking a flower for yourself. It doesn't have to cost anything. Just plan it that day ahead. So you have something to look forward to. That's a simple little exercise, but it will help. And it will also help your self-esteem because all of a sudden you're doing something nice to yourself. And it's too simple to understand. It works. It really works.
I can see where that would work. And you know what? I have a whiteboard in front of me behind my computer, and it's my to-do list for the following day always. I'm going to have to start adding a little personal note there myself. I like that idea a lot. Put it in your to-do list. I know many of us live out of a scheduled book or whatnot most of the time. Throw something like that in there. Just consciously eating an apple. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, savoring the scent and the beauty and the taste. You know, just sit there, smell it, look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Acknowledging it. Absolutely, it's very important. To be conscious of our actions, and 5 minutes of consciousness, whether it be, like you said, standing in the shower or walking a few extra blocks from the bus stop, it takes you out of yourself, and I think that's the most important thing. When you're constantly in a routine and you're stuck in a routine, you can't see change. You don't think of change. No. So when you intentionally create a little, you know, like you said, a little 5-minute break or whatnot, you're really implementing that your life can change and the routine can change.
Yes, and you can't leave your relationship, or maybe you can't get out of a bad job or any other bad situation, but you can do this, and that will help, and it'll help you make decisions too for things that are better for you.
Absolutely. We're coming up on a break in just a minute, but Henriette, what is your website that people can start looking and researching while we're talking here on the radio?
It's 110ways.com. How easy is it?
That's very easy. Wow.
Yeah, 110ways.com and 110 Ways on Facebook. You'll find me.
Cool. Very cool. Yes, I have you. Of course, you're one of my pages that I keep an eye on, of course, and I enjoy what you post quite often. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's a positives page. I have one for the domestic violence too, but that's the positive one.
Right, of course. Well, Henriette is going to be joining us again when we return from the break. We have a lot more to talk about on her series of 110 Ways and a lot more. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Bernard Alvarez, and we are speaking with Henriette Christensen about the 110 Ways series. Henriette is a author of the 110 Ways books, and she is joining us for the show today. As well, please remember, we have Trevor Knott on the chat live taking your questions and speaking to you. So if you would like to shoot us a question, feel free to send Trevor a question on the chat room. Anyway, I just wanted to let you all know that we're very grateful to be here on Revolution Radio as well. You can find me, myself, Bernard Alvarez, at thegic.org, and you can send us any of your comments, questions, and whatnot there as well if you click on the contact page. We are the Just Bernard Show here live on Revolution Radio. Now let's speak to Henriette Christensen again. Henriette, tell us a little bit about some of the obstacles that maybe you had while you were writing these books. I'm sure you were going through some of your own emotional obstacles and bringing up a lot of old feelings and whatnot. Did you find that you had some obstacles while writing those books?
There was one, and that was I tried to write my own story as fiction, and I couldn't do it because it was too close. It was too early. So it was like re-traumatizing myself again. I couldn't do it. So I started writing other books instead. I started writing about 3 years ago. I can't hear you. Are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, okay. Good. I started writing in Danish about 3 years ago, and I got, well, I wrote my own story then. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because I can't hear you. Now I can hear you again. So that was the only obstacle. I had to let it go for a while before I could turn back and, take one step back and write about something removed from myself before I could write my own story. But I'd really like to go back to some telltale signs, if it's okay.
Oh, please, let's go ahead and share that by all means.
I have 5. The 5 I consider the biggest telltale signs, and one of them is if you're nervous around your partner or your boss, whoever it is. If you're nervous around that person, like walking on eggshells, and if the other person's needs come first, that's another one. You drop everything at his call, and your friends and family, they tend to disappear. You don't really notice it, but they suddenly will drop the line like, well, they're not really good enough for you. And so they sort of disappear, so you get isolated. And then you get all those stress symptoms, anxiety symptoms like stomach and headaches and insomnia and dizziness and depression and so forth. And the 5th one that people don't think about is that you start to complain to yourself or other people about him or about the person you're involved with. Mm-hmm. That's one. If you start complaining about it, that should be an eye-opener. That's the time to take a good hard look at yourself and your relationship to see if it's worth it, if you're happy.
Absolutely, and you know what? I gotta ask though. We have to look at where is it that the line has been crossed? And in other words, when do we know that we're not just going through a bad month or a bad season or a bad spell in the relationship, and we have to come to grips with the idea that this is actually just a very toxic relationship and it's time to move on. When do you know that enough is enough?
It's a personal thing. I mean, people have different degrees of what they can tolerate, so it is a very personal thing. But if the other person makes the same mistake time and time again, and maybe says the same sort of hurtful thing to you, and you tell them and you ask them not to, and they keep doing it, they keep making the same mistakes or putting you down in the same ways, don't let that happen. I mean, once, all right, you can say that's okay, but don't do it again.
Right.
And twice, well, okay, if you had a slip up. But if they do it 3 times, then they're not going to change, or chances are they're not going to change. So 3 times, 3 chances, and that's it. And if you are starting out a relationship, you shouldn't just take the person's word for it. You can ask their friends, who are they really? Look at their friends. What kind of people are they? Are they racist? Do they kick puppies? I mean, those are pretty obvious things.
Right.
But just interview people. If you have any friends that know this person, ask about him. Ask about her. Find out who they really are. And do you like their family? Do you like their friends? I mean, Dr. Phil says that the more things you have in common, the easier the relationship, and I agree with him. It's so perfectly put that yes, the more things you have in common, the better. And that's why you can ask his friends, who is this person really?
Yes, absolutely. It seems that we forget to look at, or not even to look at or judge, but to observe the way the person lives when they're not around you. What kind of person are they? And you really hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of times they'll be doing activities that you have absolutely, well, it's different. Let's say, in America, a lot of the husbands watch football and the wives like to, I don't know, have potlucks or something like that. And, that's one thing. To have self-interest, have interests that are independent and different is living your own life, and that's a very positive thing. However, it depends on what those activities are.
Right.
Like you were saying, is it a negative hobby? Is it, something that is just really against what your core beliefs are.
Right. One question you have to ask yourself that somebody asked me a long, long time ago, I think it was in '86 or something. He asked me, well, do you like him? And I said, well, I love him. Yeah, but do you like him?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so important. Why would you spend time with somebody you don't really like? And people can tell themselves they love any partner, abusive partner, but is it really love, or is it dependency? What is it really? Is it love when somebody treats you badly? No, I wouldn't say that.
No.
So that's why I keep comparing it to an addiction, because it's so tough. It's so tough to get out.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. And, they've done studies on the brain, actually. When it comes to the emotion of love, it's the same, I believe, the same chemical that is released in the brain that is similar to like heroin or cocaine.
Right.
So it can become an addiction. I guess it would be like the neuroepinephrine or whatnot, or one of those chemicals that make you feel good. And then when you don't have it, you get that addiction mentality, and you want it more and more and more.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of the other things you were talking about of not wanting, but expressing yourself to your partner or, your wife, your husband, your partner, your friends. And one of the keys that I've noticed as well is when people tell you who they are, you need to listen.
Right. Believe them.
Believe them,
exactly. I think that's Maya Angelou who said that. The first time somebody shows who they are, believe them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And, I mean, that's not a positive thing, I think, but yes, believe them the first time.
Well, I mean, I myself have been in relationships where the person was like, oh, I don't know if I can commit. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make them commit. No, they're not going to commit. They don't want to commit,
No, they don't. If you have to chase after it, it's no good.
Absolutely. And also, again, them telling you who they are, also it goes the other way around where you're telling them who you are.
Yes.
And they don't respect that. I had a recent situation myself where someone had said to me, you're just too sensitive. I was like, yes,
right.
I'm very sensitive. I admit it. I am very sensitive. And what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? It's the best.
It's like, oh, you're too sensitive. Well, if I'm too sensitive, then you should know how to interact with me.
Well, I'm not too sensitive, but you're a bully.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why I had to move out of political activism into consciousness activism, because the political activism is very aggressive, abrasive, very abrasive, a lot of yelling and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, they're yelling with each other, and it's like, wait a second, we're supposed to be working together.
Together, yes. This is one world. This is one people. It's not. It's supposed to be one.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. And this applies to exactly what we're talking about here. Your relationship with. I see it all the time. Look at Facebook. I mean, how many Facebook fights have you seen amongst friends where people are just yelling and not yelling, but they're posting really personal things about, how they hate that person on Facebook or this and that. If you have a bad relationship with Facebook, then you might need to take a break.
Take a look at yourself. Put up the mirror. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the mirror is always good. Not just to say you love yourself, but to look at yourself.
Yeah. I came up with a very cute term about that, because a lot of people get very angry on Facebook and they cannot hold themselves back. So to make a joke out of it, I called it, what did I call it? FRS, Facebook Reactive Syndrome.
That's a good one.
It's like, okay, just relax. But you know what? I got to say something that, in this day and age, this also leads to complications, either complications or enhancements of relationships. Because you're seeing nowadays, we're seeing people in this age of technology, literally having cyber arguments, whether it be on an instant message. They could be in the same room, and they'll be texting each other or Facebooking each other and telling each other off. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I feel that, you know, when we're behind the screen, it kind of gives us that freedom to be who we are. You know, what's that saying? You know, put a mask on a person, he'll show you exactly who he is.
Right.
So it gives it that, but then it just becomes a little bit too much. I feel that it becomes, they feel they don't have any restraint, and that goes in face-to-face arguments where people just, they lose the civility, and they lose their ability to you know, to be respectful. And I believe in arguing. I know we all have to have arguments once in a while, but I also believe in arguing with civility.
Yes.
And not
and
crossing
respect.
that line.
That's the core point there, respect for one another. It's okay to disagree.
Absolutely. And it's okay to get mad sometimes. Sometimes,
Yes.
not all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
But I mean,
speaking of anger, I mean, I think anger, you probably saved my life at least twice, because after my ex left, or we split up rather, I couldn't understand why I kept being so depressed. I just couldn't understand. I was happy he had left, and of course it's not easy when you have 3 children and you're single, but I didn't understand why I kept being depressed. And I finally it hit me, you know, I can't let this man have such power over me. He's not even here, you know. And so that's really what started me writing, because I had to understand. I wanted to understand everything about it so it wouldn't happen again. You know, patterns have a tendency to repeat themselves. And I knew about women who love too much, and I had read Faye Weldon back in the 80s, but I didn't understand it, basically. So that's another reason why I had to simplify it. But the anger really got me going. So, no way am I going to let this happen to me. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being depressed. I couldn't kill myself. I had 3 kids. So I couldn't end it. So I really had to change it. And I knew it had to come from within. And I knew I had to understand everything. I had to turn every single stone to figure it out, to be happy.
And anger was the motivating factor in all that.
It was. Anger can be a good thing. It's usually a forbidden thing, and that might be one of the factors of us staying in bad relationships, because we're taught that anger is wrong. I was told when I was a child to go spit out the troll in my stomach when I was angry. So I was told it was very wrong. So I had to come a long way to realize, no, anger can be a good thing. It's not a good thing if you pick up your gun and shoot somebody, but it's a good thing if it brings you to change and brings you to who you really are.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I feel that it does create change, and it not only within the home, but within your personal life, within your community life, within your national or global life. I mean, when we're outraged and we're angry at something, it motivates us to create some type of change.
Yes. It really beats being depressed.
It certainly does.
I think it's one of the things I teach all the people who come to me is like, you got to get angry. Look what he's done. You know, write it down. You got to go through the pain before you can get rid of it. Go on to the other side. Go beyond the pain, beyond the anger. You have to look at it. What was it really like? And people are so reluctant to do that. This is sort of, maybe this is a sidetrack, but I have this exercise because people are too empathic and they want to be too good sometimes. In these types of relationships, it's not a good thing. But how about this exercise? I might get unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyway. How about taking the biggest piece of the pie? How's that? How does that feel? It feels like stealing, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but why are you supposed to give it away every single time? I know you always give your children first. You give your husband or your mate the biggest piece, but what if you do it yourself? And I tell people can't do this. They can't. And I couldn't do it either. I still can't. But you can sort of do it when nobody's watching. I know it's a silly exercise, but it's just to make you really feel what you feel like.
Yeah.
And I know it's my invention. I haven't heard about this exercise anywhere, but it's just to make you feel. how would it feel to get the biggest piece? Why are they supposed to get the biggest piece every time? You know, it's sort of like childish, but it works. It makes you think.
Exactly. And it's very motivating and very empowering when you can, for me, what that leads to is understanding your worth and what you do deserve in all aspects of your life. It's not just that big piece of pie. It's the big piece of pie of life.
Right.
You know, what we deserve, and to show that, you know, when we're constantly giving, boy, you know, it's so funny. I'm going through this this particular topic with my own career right now. And I feel the same thing. You know, there's a certain time where it's like, okay, enough is enough. And I deserve a piece of the pie now.
Right.
You know, the big piece of the pie. I've been giving everything, giving. When do I get in return? And now, since I can't, I have to take it.
Yes.
And I deserve it, and I'm not going to feel bad about it.
It's back to the selfish thing. And yes, it is selfish to take the biggest piece of the pie, but it's just a picture. You know, it's just to make you think. Because Trevor, he deserves the biggest pie too, you know?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
So do I.
And so do you, and so we all do. We all do.
Yes.
And one day you can have a bigger piece, and the next day I'll have the bigger piece.
Right. We can take turns.
We can take turns taking the bigger piece of the pie.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's what it is. I feel that we do forget, again, it goes back to what we're talking about here, about the self-worth, about what you deserve, and how what you think you deserve, I think, is the most important thing. And we're going to talk more about that. Actually, we still have about 5 more minutes on this hour. But what you think you deserve and how much that plays a role in your relationships and how you allow other people to treat you. I find that, and I just saw this the other day. Someone posted it on the internet, and I loved it. It said, how you allow other people to treat you is how they're going to treat you.
Right, exactly. And that's why I'm saying the 3 chances, because if you tell them or ask other people not to do something and they keep doing it, well, what are you going to do? You can't reach them. They don't respect you. So what do you want? Is this what you want? Because it's going to keep happening. So it's true. You teach other people how you want to be treated to a certain extent. I mean, there are psychos out there that you can't teach anything. But yes, generally, this is what it's like. Absolutely. So that's, again, treat yourself nicely, respect yourself, and that's what you're going to get back.
I agree. Now, I know that you said that you have you ever put out any pages as far as like resources for people? I know, and we're going to talk more about it. I know you talked about, we're going to talk about tools to move on. But do you know of any international or national resources for people to help get out of these bad relationships?
Yes, there are tons of them. They're all listed in my books. I have lots of books to read. The Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood. That's almost like a Bible, except that I didn't understand it, or I didn't. Yes, I understood it, but I couldn't live it.
Yeah.
And one thing is that people should understand that they're not alone. We all think we are alone in these abusive relationships, but we're not. There are thousands and thousands of people out there who understand exactly what you're going through. But yes, I mean, if you're young, you can go to your church, or there are tons of Facebook groups too. You just do a search on domestic violence or abuse or psychopath. You can do a search on those words. You can use your school counselor if you're in school. But yes, I have lists. They're all in my book, and you can get those lists for free right now because my toxic book is free. But there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's just called thehotline.org, and
oh, good.
AA.
Okay.
I like to refer to AA because they have this 12-point recovery list that you have to go through, and it's the same thing. You can use the same points trying to get out of that relationship.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we only have a few more seconds before the break, but they, I believe there's something called Codependent Anonymous as well, and they changed the wording in the 12 steps to help you recover from that bad relationship. using the tools that AA does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very, very helpful. Anyway, we're coming up on the break. When we return, we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to learn how not to be a victim anymore, how to see any more warning signs. We're going to discuss other tools and techniques that we can use to get out of these relationships. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show. Here we are starting the second hour with Henriette Christensen, joining us live from Denmark. I wanted to let everybody know that next week we have a very special guest joining us. Brian Forster will be discussing hidden archaeology with us. For those of you that recognize the name, Brian has been on Ancient Aliens several times and is researching the mystery of the elongated skulls. I'm sure you've seen them around the internet, but he'll be our guest next week for the 2 hours as well. So make sure to come back and listen next Tuesday at noon Eastern Time here on Revolution Radio, the Just Bernard Show. Anyway, let's get back to our discussion, and I have a very interesting topic that we haven't really touched on yet. I noticed that there are women and men that are in very committed relationships that we spoke of a little bit, but that they spend all of their time with their partner, with their family. They have no alone time, no what I call me time, which I feel is very, very important. And you mentioned a little bit about being independent. Now, why is it so important to stay independent, and why would that be considered a contradiction in a relationship?
Well, because a relationship, when it's good, is, well, you do depend on each other. Of course you do. Why else would you be together? You have to depend on each other if it's a good relationship. But if you still keep that little toe on the ground and keep your own life, you can never ever be blown away. It may not be that it's a bad relationship, but what if your partner passes away, suddenly gets run over by a car or something? If you keep that little toe on the ground at all times and keep your independence, keep your own friends, at least create an opportunity to make your own money, not even if you're a stay-at-home mom, which is fine with me if that's what you like. But have those things in order. You will never ever be blown away by anything, really, because you have the ground control, really.
Right. Well, you're grounded in yourself, I feel,
Yes.
you know, and being a whole person, it's better to be in a relationship with two whole people than two half people, so to speak.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered a book by Shel Silverstein. It's really, really good. It's called The Missing Piece Meets the Big O. It's sort of a cartoon, not a lot of words, but it's great. It describes it so perfectly that these two different people can roll together, but you don't have to fit exactly into each other. You don't have to be one in that sense.
Yeah, because, we see it. Well, I see it on, TV shows and dramas and whatnot. When you are that involved with the other person, it really becomes more of an obsession.
Right. It could be,
And
yes.
it turns into an obsession, and then that person becomes your obsession, and you no longer have any extracurricular interests. You've lost interest in yourself. You've lost interest in the things that make you happy. A lot of people just want to, I guess, own the other person.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of that in these domestic problems. As far as when there's emotional or mental abuse or physical abuse, they want to own the other person,
Yes.
and it takes two. The other person will usually just let them.
Yes. Otherwise, they would have left the first time it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I write is, if he hits you, get out now. There's no second thoughts, just get out.
I was at
Don't forgive, don't buy into the flowers he's going to bring you, just get out.
Yeah.
Because if you stay and he might not do it for a couple of years, but he might do it again, and then what? Then it's all of a sudden it's normal, then it's how he treats you. Or she,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
living here in the South, I'm living in the South of the United States, the Southern mentality and whatnot. And I've been to a few gatherings or parties or whatnot, and I've seen my particular red flag goes up when I see, let's say we're at a party and in one room are all the guys talking, and on the other room all the girls are talking, and yet there's always that one husband or boyfriend that is listening to it and watching what his wife is saying, and then pulling her aside and getting upset for something that she said, or is not letting her, not letting her drive the car because he wants to control her. I mean, there's all these little aspects of control,
right,
that are warning signs, and people see it, and that's the thing that I hope people understand that might be in these types of relationships. Is the world does see you are in an abusive relationship. They see it. If you think we're not seeing it, you're mistaken. So when you're in that type of relationship, knowing that other people see it, you should not really be afraid to step up to an outsider, a friend, a family member, and say, "Look, I think I'm having a problem here." And they're like, "Yeah, we know." They know. They've seen it. They see the warning signs.
And if you're in doubt, you should pick up one of my books. The first one, 110 Ways to Detect a Bad Relationship. It has hundreds of questions you can ask yourself to find out how you really feel.
Oh, good.
Once I went to a party with my ex-husband once, and I didn't know anybody. And so he started talking to somebody. And what happened was that he was standing sort of in a circle of people, and he wouldn't let me in. He just turned his back. And I was just standing there behind him, and he's a pretty big guy. He's like 6 foot something, and I'm 5'5", so there was nothing I could do. So he just turned his back. So that was what I was worth to him. And I was just lost. I couldn't even think. What's going on here? I didn't understand. I just knew that I didn't feel good about it.
Absolutely. And again, it just demeans a person. It makes them feel smaller. For me, this is a much bigger issue, and this is probably one of the main reasons why I wanted to make sure that you came on the show today, is that people need to understand that I might be a consciousness activist, and I might be very spiritually inclined, but if we are going to create change on the planet, and I say this all the time, if we are going to create change on the planet for the better, we need to change ourselves, and especially women or men who are being demeaned and made to feel small. That's not helping what my goal is. And my goal is to empower the world and empower individuals around the planet. So we must be able to be aware of these things. We must be fearless in looking at our personal lives and what our relationships are like. And again, it could be a partner, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. And to be abused or bullied, and that seems to be a very hot topic these days, is not okay. It's not okay. And I love the fact that you said to go ahead and get mad, because we've got to get mad sometimes.
Yes.
And
but it's not really legal. It's not really legal. We're not supposed to get mad. And that's why it's so difficult. But it's very interesting what you say, because I have created a pyramid of peace, and on the bottom we have hate and physical violence, rape, and war. And the next step is the psychological abuse, the verbal abuse, and it moves up all the way up to joy and spirituality. But yes, I'm just working on one step below. I'm not on the bottom step. I don't work with rape or war or anything like that. But I'm on the next step of this pyramid. And you may be working a bit further up. But yes, you're absolutely right. We have to get the whole pyramid going to save the world, if you will.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and it is. It's about personal empowerment, and moving through. And again, there is a certain fearlessness that is needed to look at ourselves and to make those decisions. And you were just saying how anger is like not acceptable or whatnot. There are moments when it applies, and it is going to be a motivating factor. We talked about it a little bit earlier. What I can't help, and I can't help but wonder if you've thought about this in the sense of how it applies to our own conditioning is society, whether it be socially or politically or what we're seeing in the media. as to how that could add to that victim mindset. And
my daughter watches some of those youth soaps on television, and a lot of the times they don't really treat each other well, but they sort of laugh it off. It's funny,
right?
But is it really funny? I mean, do you do these things to each other? Is it? So, yes, I think the media plays a big role, and the media tends to either focus on all the very positive things or the opposite. So that's what we see. We don't see the middle road. We don't see where it actually works. We see the glamour or the dirt.
Yeah. There's it's not. It's funny because they call, the new movement is reality television, but meanwhile, there's really no reality. It's all, like you said, dirt or glamour. There's no in between.
No.
And, I can't help to think that, let's say, for example, and I know this is cliche, everyone talks about it, women's body image and how, the fashion magazines and whatnot and the media and the entertainment industry trying to make everyone think that you have to be a size 0 and 22 years old to be beautiful. Right. And meanwhile, here we are, here's a 32-year-old woman who's in an abusive relationship, and the man will say something to demean her, and she'll believe it because that's what society tells her.
Right. She'll be old and ugly at 32.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And gosh, I don't know how many people out there listening know about the fact I used to work in the fashion industry myself. And, I remember speaking with some of my clientele and people going through divorces saying, let's say a 50-year-old woman is in a very volatile relationship. I mean, and again, being in the fashion industry, I did hair, makeup, the whole bit, and I've had to cover bruises.
Right.
And I've seen the women are like, oh, but we've been together for 30 years, and I'll never find anyone again. And meanwhile, they're walking around with a swollen face or with no money because, the husband has to control every little bit and again, I'm not trying to make it just a male-female thing. It could be the wife doing the same thing.
Yes.
I've seen where the woman is in control and verbally abusive.
Yes.
So the point I'm trying to make is that we seem to come up with so many excuses. I myself went through the same thing. I went through a breakup about 3 years ago of a 10-year relationship it wasn't mentally abusive, but it wasn't what I wanted. Right. And that letting go it's like, oh my gosh, I'm 40 years old. How am I going to move on? Am I going to find somebody else? They're so perfect. They're so beautiful. La, 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 la. But meanwhile, they weren't, emotionally supportive. So again, we create these excuses, and I'm wondering, when was the moment that you knew it was time to move on, Henriette? When was the moment that you said, okay, you know what, I'm going to be brave, and what helped you to do that?
Well, it came in steps. One thing is that he made me go back to work, which was fine. We needed a second income, so I started working as a substitute teacher. And after a while, then he thought it was a good idea. It's all his thoughts. He thought it was a good idea that I went back to school to get a teaching degree. So I did. But that was the beginning of the end, because I started socializing, and I started to learn about psychology. I started to seeing other people. They would call me for homework. I found out I was smart. And now I can't hear you again.
Okay, we're back.
Oh, you're back. Okay, good.
The joys of internet streaming.
Right. But anyway, I went back to school. Did you get that part at all?
Yes, we heard you fine.
Okay. The long and the short is that I want to tell everybody that it's one of my favorite people, my wonderful editor, Vern Rio. He said to me once, no relationship is worth being miserable over. And also, I guess he's quite famous, Don Miguel Ruiz. Yeah. He says, if love hurts, it isn't love. Those two quotes, they say it all.
And was there a point when you finally just embraced that, and was that a part of your courage?
It was, well, we had decided to split up, and he had bought an apartment, and the idea was that he would be there when he was in one of his moods, so to speak, and I would take care of the kids and everything else. But then one day we were lying in bed watching television, and he all of a sudden said he was so upset that we were growing apart. And so I was open, I would listen to him, and then about 2 minutes later he said that he thought my eldest son should have been removed by the authorities.
Oh my
And
God.
I could hear the drop falling. That was the end. From that day on, I was just waiting for him to leave, to get into his own apartment. It was a huge exercise in diplomacy. I was just waiting for that to happen. So yes, I could hear the drop falling. And if you can envision that, just look at a glass of water, see the last drop falling, and it spills. There's just no way you can get it back in.
Yep.
You can't. And that's what happened. I could see it falling. I could hear it. I could feel it. That was the end.
And you know what? When something like that happens, and I speak from personal experience, I can't help but I guess I don't want to say warn everyone, but bring to the attention to everyone that, you know, like you said, it's that last drop. It spilled. I call it the straw that broke the camel's back. Just that one little straw was just too much.
Right.
And we call it the final straw or whatnot. But the moment that happens, I can't help but notice that the other person will say to you, and this is a common tactic used by those who want to control and dominate, they'll say to you, "Oh, well, what's the big deal? Oh, you're going to break up over one little thing? Oh,
Right.
that one thing?" No, it's not one thing. It's all the things. That was the last thing.
Yeah, and then they'll tell you keep dragging up old dirt, and
Exactly.
you're overreacting.
And they try to manipulate you to me, that's a form of manipulation. When they want to manipulate you into staying in the relationship, even though you're unhappy. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's physical or verbal abuse, it's still abuse.
Right.
And they'll manipulate you into saying, "Oh, but that's only one thing. We'll get past this. We always get past it," or, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And how important it is to stand your ground. When you, like you just said, that last drop of water just spilled the glass. That last straw broke the camel's back. When it's broken, it's broken. You need to stick to your guns and say, enough is enough.
Yes.
And really, and I'm speaking to all of our listeners out there, to really hold your ground and know that what you're feeling is real. And I think that's one of the most important things is owning our emotions instead of contemplating, oh, am I feeling that right? No, yeah, if you're feeling it, it's right.
It's right. Yes. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel it.
Own it. Own it.
Yes.
Take the bull by the horns and just say, it's time for a change. And I have to compliment you on the idea of being diplomatic till they found a new place. I don't know if I could do something like that.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I could have negotiated down in the Middle East afterwards. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
I can't imagine. How long was it until they finally moved out?
It was 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I counted every single day. I counted down.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And then it took an extra 10 days because he had to paint and stuff at the apartment, and it just seemed like he wouldn't leave.
And you can't help but ask yourself, like, do they linger because they want to watch you cringe? I mean, do they get a joy out of watching you suffer? I mean,
yeah.
These are the games people play, unfortunately, and that's what they are. They're games. They're games.
I'm so sick of games. I mean, it's quite interesting. I'm finally really happy being single. I like my life. I love doing what I do. My kids are okay. And then a few weeks ago, somebody comes into my life, a new man who seems really nice, and I've actually known him for 17 years, but not really known him. So. Yeah, well, it can happen. I'm 50 out there. You don't have to be 32 and ugly. I'm 50.
Right.
So it can't happen again.
You're 50 and beautiful and loving life.
Thank you. Yes, I am.
Now, that's a great, this is a great point to touch on, is the moving on aspect. Once you leave the relationship, how long does it take to heal? I know that's a personal thing. And how do we overcome that post-traumatic stress, so to speak? Have you done any investigative work into that?
Oh, yes, and my books are full of those too. It's not just detecting the bad relationships. It's how to move on as well. It takes a long time, but you can shorten the period by returning to what we've already talked about, being good to yourself. It's the one thing that you can do is be good to yourself, because that will build your self-esteem. It will gradually make you happier. Just those 5 minutes every single day, just do it. It will change your life. 5 minutes a day can change your life. So yes, it takes time. Meditation is great. Reading, talking about it. When you have some kind of trauma, it really helps to talk about it. And a trauma doesn't have to be something really violent. It can be all those little things added up.
Yeah.
So talk about it, realize it, write it down, read about it, and find support groups. It's very important. And I think one of the final steps in healing is starting to teach others and tell others what you have been through and helping others. It's one of the final steps. But it takes time. It does take a lot longer than you want it to.
Yeah.
But those things can help. Meditation, reading, writing, talking, and being good to yourself, if only for those 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I find also one of the things that can be very helpful is finding something that's bigger than yourself and working toward that, getting yourself out of it. Working, working on a campaign to, end fracking, or, working with your church, or, working with a community organization, something that's bigger than you. I find that the more you give out, because you were giving this person all your energy anyway.
Yes.
And that means that you're a giving person. So give to the community, give to, the planet. Somebody who appreciates it and deserves it. Exactly. Yeah. And I feel that when you start seeing the repercussions, the positive repercussions of that, you're like, oh, I can still be giving and still get something in return without being, abused or treated poorly by all my giving.
Yes. And finding old friends and maybe taking up hobbies that you used to love when you were a child, drawing or even building sandcastles, whatever makes you happy. That's a good thing to do. And if you look up your old friends, because they may very well have disappeared over the years, that's one of the things I did. Was the first thing I did. It was just a few days after he left. It was my birthday, and I had called all my girlfriends from far and near, and old and new friends from my school. I called them all together, and we had a party, and we had a blast.
Oh, wow.
And so I started picking up pieces of my old life.
Isn't that funny? And I mean that in a good way. I kind of went through the same thing. I remember several months after ending my relationship saying that I feel like I'm 15 again.
Yes.
Like I saw life anew with the eyes of a teenager, and I remembered that feeling of anything is possible. I can do this, I can do that, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, empowering feeling to get that clarity back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I use Facebook a lot to find my old friends. It's such a great tool.
Yeah. I think I went through that as well.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I'm an activist now, so a lot of people didn't want to hear what I had to say when I post, but but it was nice to talk to them occasionally, by all means. I was also thinking how actually we're going to have we have about 3 more minutes before our break, but I was also thinking about the whole idea of being traumatized, and how I find for me, having dated several people already, I'm always looking for that characteristic that was in the former. And it's like, oh no, now they're acting like that. I can't go out with them.
I know, you tend to be oversensitive sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
and that is a shortcoming. Absolutely.
Yeah. You've been burnt, and of course you have to stay alert.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you become hypersensitive, and I think one of the things that one of my friends said, they're like, just trust. If it doesn't work out, now you know. One of the things that we learn from our experiences is that, like you said, the warning signs are going to be very, very in your face.
Yes.
So, give it a try. Go out with them for a month or two, and if it doesn't work out, you only lost a month or two.
Right.
But don't start judging.
10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Don't start judging the first day because they said the word, pickle, and your ex hated pickles and threw them at you or something.
Right. Be open, yes, but just keep that toe planted on the ground. Yeah. Look, listen, feel,
Yeah, absolutely. And learn to feel again. Because one of the things that a lot of people do is they end up closing up and locking up their heart.
Yes.
And then you become cold and bitter. And nobody wants to be cold, old, and bitter. We want to remember.
And nobody wants to be with somebody who is.
Yes, exactly. So remembering, it's healing, putting a little safeguard around us while we're healing is very important. But once the healing is done, acknowledge when the healing is done, or at least when you're well enough to move on.
Yeah, and dating somebody else can be refreshing too. It doesn't have to be for the next 50 years. It can be for a few months. It can be fun. Have fun.
Yeah. Exactly. And we forget that. And, again, we're talking about intimate relationships, but the same thing, again, goes with friends, family, working, work relationships as well. So we want to leave you with a message of being empowered and learning tools to be able to move on. The 110 ways to move on.
Right. Yes, 110 ways. But really, there is just one. There is just one way, and that's listening to yourself.
Yeah. And really being honest.
Yes.
And, but again, it's so hard to do for many people.
I know. Well, we've been there, right? So we know.
Absolutely. I know that, I know of many people who have actually they become the opposite. They blossom, they flourish. I mean, within days, they're once they get out of that relationship and the bruises heal, whether they be mental or physical. I've seen people just blossom and their wings grow back and they start a business, start a whole new career. Start living a more healthy and very fulfilling life. So.
Yes.
Sometimes it just takes a matter of just saying no more and making room for the new.
Yeah, you don't have to start keep beating yourself over the head with old stuff.
Exactly. Anyway, we're going to be taking a break in just a few seconds, and when we return, we're going to continue talking with Henriette Christensen about all of her books and a bit about her free book that's out. Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio. I'm Bernard Alvarez, and I am the Empowerment Director for the Global Illumination Council, and you can find me at thegic.org. Also, I wanted to remind everybody that next week is Brian Forster is joining us live from Peru. It's funny, we're having an international month here. We have Henriette in Denmark. We've got Brian Forster joining us from Peru next week. And then the following week, we've got Gregory Sams, the counterculture icon, will be joining us from the UK. So we're just traveling around the world over the next month. Last week we had Free Spirit from Africa. So we truly are the Global Illumination Council. Anyway, we are speaking with Henriette Christensen here, 110 Ways. And I wanted to know, Henriette, why did you decide that your latest book was going to be, your latest book, 110 Ways to Spot a Toxic Person? Why did you decide to give it away?
Because a lot of the times people who are ending these types of relationships simply don't have any money at all. So I thought it was important. And shelters and crisis centers, they don't have any money either. So I wanted to have everybody have the opportunity to get this book. So that's why I did it.
That's very important. That's very important. Can you tell us where they can find 110 Ways, the free ebook?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I link to it from Facebook. I hate to tell you, I haven't updated my website, but my Facebook groups, you can find links to the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, you can also find it on the Global Illumination Council Facebook page as well. I saw you posted it, and I posted it there. And I believe Trevor is posting it in the chat, or has already posted it in the chat.
Yep.
So if you are interested in finding the free ebook from Henriette, 110 Ways to Spot a Toxic Person, go ahead and download it. It's a free ebook. What more could you ask? Now, as far as the entire series, you've written many, many books on the 110 Ways series. What is the main message that you want people to gain from reading all of your books?
I want them to gain life. I want them to gain happiness, and I want them to respect themselves. I want to empower them so they can make these important decisions, no matter what other people might tell them. You know, some religions are still opposed to breaking up a marriage. And so it can be very hard, just for that one reason, to leave an abusive relationship. But I have so many questions in my books that to ask yourself, and one of them is, if he had an identical twin, would I let my best friend's sister or daughter date him?
Oh.
Oh.
That's a very good question.
Yes. That one could hurt.
Yeah.
No way.
Yes,
No
exactly.
way.
Talk about giving you perspective, an objective perspective.
Yeah.
I have a twin.
Okay.
Well, are you nice? If you're nice, it's nice to have two of you.
Yeah, right. I was going to say Trevor is too nice. He's one of the too nice.
More of them.
Yep.
We're all a little too nice at the GIC, I will say. But let me just say that also, you know, today is the day that our book is being released together. Me and Henriette. Henriette, you're in book number 2 with me?
No, I'm in book number 1.
Oh, you're in book number 1. Okay, we'll get book 1 and get book 2. But book number 2 is coming out today. I'm one of the many people featured in that book as well. It's called The Faces Behind the Pages That Inspire. And it's about people like Henriette Christensen, myself. We've got, so many people. Global Informer, I believe, is in there.
Yes.
Agape from True Book is in there. I mean, all of these people that you know from around Facebook, everywhere that you've been. So when you get a chance, again, that's available on Amazon as well. It's called The Faces Behind the Pages That Inspire. And I love it. For me, it was funny because first of all, I love Lori's personality. She's so full of energy and always thinking, just like me. We have a lot in common that way. But it was funny because she was telling me, she's like, I was telling her a little bit about my story, and I said, well, you know, quite honestly, Lori, I had to tone it down a little bit. I figured you wanted it to be more, you know, for the general public. She's like, oh, no, you should have gotten down and dirty, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you want to revise your chapter? I'm like, oh, no, I'll save it for the TV show, you know?
Talk about meeting new people. I mean, it's been so wonderful meeting all those people on Facebook, and I hope I get to meet you, all of you, live someday, because it's been, I think I've gained so many friends for life on that project, and it really is a wonderful project. I've loved the title from the start.
Yes, me too. Absolutely, me too. And again, same here. I think I've made a lot of new friends for life, and so many people have been very supportive of my work now, and it's very nice to hear it from people, without sounding snobby, but you know, people of the caliber of Facebook exposure, I guess is the word, who really validate the work that we're doing here on the Just Bernard Show and in the Global Illumination Council. So it's very validating. And it's very helpful to extend our network of people that we interact with and do projects with. What a great project. I mean, who thought?
Yes.
And I hope that that the world tour does manifest, and maybe we will be able to meet you in Denmark.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
I've already had I forgot who it is, the author from South Africa. She's like, "Oh, you're going to come to South Africa? I want to meet you."
Yes, yes.
It's like, well, we'll see how much of the tour I can participate in, but I would love to do the whole world thing. The only thing is, I'm sure you have your family. I have my animals, and my animals are my family, so it's a little hard to go from country to country with animals.
Yes.
But anyway, again, sticking with the theme of empowerment and waking people up and helping them see their true potential, and not only their true potential, but to align with what their spirit is telling them. I think that's so important. And what I like about the book that we're in, or the series that we're in together, Henriette, is that it talks. I know that I talked about some of my, my hard struggles in life and the adversity that I had to deal with to come out the other end and do what I'm doing now.
Yes. And
it gives us a safe place to do something like that. So when we're talking about people that are being abused or in domestic violent situations, it really does help to hear people that have been through it,
yes,
and have come out the other end and are a success story.
And this project also once again confirms that you are not alone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why, and I think that's one of the most important things that you said to our listeners is that once you do get out of it, share your story with other people.
Yes.
Let people know that there is hope, that there is a way to get out of these horrible relationships, whether they're domestic violence or mental abuse. It's something that we can overcome. And when we do overcome it, we become a better person for the world to overcome its own problems again.
Yes.
Taking it to the next level. Moving through the hurt into empowerment.
Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit about, as we're moving into the moving on part, you talked a little bit about the tools to move on. You mentioned Robin Norwood and AA. Can you expand a little bit more on that? I don't remember the book that you said, Robin Norwood.
She wrote this back in the 80s, Women Who Love Too Much.
Oh.
There is another one by Paul Babak, I think his name is. It's called Snakes in Suits for the business men. And then I mentioned The Missing Piece Meets the Big O by Shel Silverstein.
Oh, okay.
And well, if you want to work on your relationship, you can. Dr. Phil has a book called Relationship Rescue. And some of the things that have been important to me is to learn about these personality disorders, maybe. So I've read about that too. There's one called Character Disturbance: The Phenomenon of Our Age by George K. Simon.
Oh.
So I've read so much, but all of these resources are in my books, and like you said, you can get it for free now.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. You're talking about personality disorders, and I had a flashback the moment you said that. I remember going through my past relationship, the one I got out of a couple of years ago, and saying, you know what, this person is obsessed with their relationship with their mother. That was one of the, and that was the straw, my straw. When they wanted to go live with their mom for 3 months. I was like, really? We're in the middle of a marriage and you want to live with your mom for 3 months? And we're not breaking up? Oh, I want to heal my relationship with my mother. Jesus Christ, you're almost 30 years old. Get over it. But the idea of that, it made me wonder, and I wanted to investigate, and this is the point I'm trying to make. It made me want to investigate. And of course, I was a psychology major for a little while before I moved into philosophy and metaphysics. But the term borderline personality popped up, and the definition of borderline personality and the attributes of that. And I'm not going to say that I agree with everything the DSM has to say. I think they have way too many disturbances nowadays. I mean, everything is in the DSM.
Has a diagnosis. Everybody has a diagnosis. Yes.
Still. but I will say this was, years ago, a few years ago, a couple DSM editions back, and just the attributes. And number one was being abandoned, was borderline personality. People that felt abandoned and positive and negative reinforcement constantly giving you positive and then taking it away and giving you negative and then giving you positive and taking away negative. So again, I love the fact that you said researching these personality disorders that sometimes you cannot really do anything about.
Right.
And it is going to take years of therapy and whatnot.
Therapy, yes.
And I was going to say who's got the years, but it's different if they want to help themselves. It's different if they want to help themselves. Yes. And it's very difficult to make someone help themselves, to make someone want to help themselves. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now, Henriette, you have some other books that are going to be coming out. I see that 110. We have a couple more 110 ways coming out.
Oh, well, they keep coming to me. I have several in the works. I have one quote book out with happiness quotes, and I'm going to make another one on abundance. I have 110 ways to build a good relationship, and I have my own story, which is probably just going to be called My Way. 110 Ways My Way.
Okay.
So the titles keep coming to me faster than I can write the books, and it's such an amazing process.
Isn't that amazing how that happens? That inspiration comes and.
Yeah. So this is what I'm meant to do.
That's wonderful. Now, are your books? Well, they're available in English. Are they available in Dutch or any other languages as well?
Some of them are in Danish, yes. But I've written 5 in English and 6 in Danish.
Oh, really?
One of them is a cookbook.
Really?
So I span wide. So yes, 11 books, and then I'm a co-author of 3 more. So yes, that's what I'm doing. I write.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So you like to cook, huh?
Yeah, well, it actually was because my middle son had a weight problem, and I wasn't allowed, or I wouldn't make desserts for a lot of years, so it's a dessert cookbook.
Oh, okay. So it's a little pent up sweet tooth.
Yeah. So in lieu of the real thing, I wrote a cookbook.
That's wonderful. I've been so tempted to write a cookbook. I've been asked to write a cookbook actually, and I'm almost to that point where I think I'm ready. Mm-hmm. I love to cook, and I love being in the kitchen. I am a suppressed gourmet chef.
Go for it.
It's one of my favorite times. And, again, we were talking about those 5 minutes of treating yourself. And for me, spending, even 5 hours in the kitchen is a meditation. It really is. I love just the mixing and the baking and the measuring, all of. Actually, I don't even measure anything, but no real.
Those are the things we tend to forget when we are in those types of relationship. We forget what we like. We can forget even if we like strawberries. So if you find that you suddenly don't know if you like strawberries or not, well, that's a good place to start.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And I think that also comes as a symptom of depression.
Yes, you don't know what you like anymore.
Yeah, that nothing feels good, nothing makes you happy. The things that you used to love doesn't mean anything to you anymore.
Yeah, I have one more great quote by Don Miguel Ruiz. He says, "Suffering makes you feel safe because you know it so well." And that's true. I mean, it's hard if you've been in bad relationship. If you had a traumatic childhood, you don't know any better. It just feels right, despite the fact that it doesn't feel nice.
Right.
And so that's another point where it's really hard. Why it's really hard to break out of this, because you don't know any better. It's always been like this. My dad, my dad was not an alcoholic, but if you start out like that, or your mom beats you, or whatever happens, you're just used to it. Yeah. This is normal.
It becomes normal.
That's what I talked about earlier about the normalizing the abuse. It's suddenly the way it's supposed to be. Suffering makes you feel safe because you know it so well.
Yeah.
And so what feels safe is not necessarily nice.
Isn't that the truth? And it's funny because, many of us that are involved in spirituality believe that we need to suffer. I had my shamanic awakening in my early 20s, and I always felt, I'm suffering for humanity. I'm suffering. And I went through this whole phase through my mid-30s almost of being that tortured artist. And it was just so comfortable to suffer, just like you said. It was very comforting. Oh, well, if anything fails, at least I'll be miserable today.
Yeah, I'll be a starving artist.
Yeah, the starving artist mentality, the suffering, the tortured artist, actually, I used to call it. And I was proud of it. I wore it like a badge. I'm a tortured artist, And we begin to think that is a way to be happy, and it's not. It's masochism as far as I'm concerned, emotional masochism.
Yes, and that brings me to one more quote by Raymond Lindquist, and he says, "Courage is the power to let go of the familiar." And that goes hand in hand with the suffering.
Everything.
Courage is the power to let go of the familiar. I love that quote.
I do too. That's absolutely
courage.
True.
Yes. It takes a lot of guts to change.
It really does. It's very important too. A lot of people know I'm involved in metaphysics, and I do tarot readings and whatnot. And in the tarot, there's a card called the Fool, and everyone thinks that it's a negative card. But what the Fool does is he steps off the precipice without thinking, and that's a form of courage, of what you just said. Accepting, just going into the universe, trusting the universe to guide you in the right direction, and letting go.
Yes.
Learning to let go. I find that one of the greatest empowering tools that I had in the last 10 years was not judging the outcome. When we're clinging to the outcome, and this happens in relationships all the time, we're expecting them to act a certain way. We expect things to turn out a certain way, and then when they don't turn out that way, we start beating up on ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to let go of the outcomes and just really focus on being good to ourselves and moving toward the desired goal, even though the universe might decide the goal has to change a little bit. Instead of a blue house, you'll have a white house, or the White House. Who knows?
Yes. Yeah.
But again, letting go of that outcome is a very important aspect of not being a victim, because then you become a victim of yourself.
Yes.
How many times in a relationship you think, oh, well, he's not going to do that again. Well, boom, there he goes. He did it again.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, silly me. I should have known better.
Yeah. 3 chances.
Yes.
Yeah. Only 3 chances.
You're out. 3 strikes, you're out.
Yes. That's it.
So as we're coming up on the end of the show here, Henriette, what would be some of your what would be your message to any of our listeners right now who are, let's say they're in a domestic violence situation right now? What could be the first step that they could take right now to change things?
Read my books.
Okay.
No, I mean, I know it's not that.
Seriously.
Well, but again, start doing something nice to yourself, because then little by little you won't put up with all the stuff that happens around you. Just be good to yourself. And why is that so hard? It's not that hard, is it? Just to eat that apple?
Yeah.
Please eat that apple.
A piece of pie.
Yes, pick. You can do it behind his back. Just do it.
That's a very good point.
Yes. That's it. The first step is to, if you can't do anything else, just try to be nice to yourself. Just once a day for 5 minutes.
Very good.
And you can change your life in 5 minutes a day. I promise you can.
Yes, I know you can. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Henriette. This is we were speaking with Henriette Eiby Christensen, and she is the author of the 110 Ways series. And we can find your website at 110ways.com, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our time together. It was great connecting with you.
Yeah, thank you, Bernard. It's been a blast. I had fun.
Good. We did too.
Good.
And again, remember, you can check it out at 110ways.com. Also, I wanted to remind everyone that next week we have Brian Forrester is joining us with Hidden Archaeology. He'll be joining us from Peru. He's a part of the Megalithomania tour last year, and I'm sure he's going to give us a lot of interesting stuff. He's been seen on Ancient Aliens and will be in a series called The Watchers coming up soon. Anyway, you're listening to the Just Bernard Show. My name is Bernard Alvarez. I am the Empowerment Director of the Global Illumination Council. You can find me at thegic.org. We're always looking for new members to support our work, so please, by all means, apply for membership. And remember to always support Revolution Radio. Without them, we could not be here. Thank you, everyone, and have a very wonderful week. We love you all very, very much. We'll see you next time. This is Bernard Alvarez, thanking you from the Just Bernard Show. Bye-bye.